This is Ron Klopfenstein, and you're in the hot seat on a Media Monday. Hey everyone, I'm Ron Klopfenstein, and you're in the hot seat on this Media Monday. We want to welcome everyone who is streaming with us today on Twitch and Facebook Live, as well as our streaming audience on 95.5 FM The Heat and on the TuneIn app, and those of you who are listening to us right now on the broadcast at 95.5 FM. Tonight we'll be talking to Brandon Maslowski-Dunn. He's an international journalist who's just back from Egypt and has a story coming out tomorrow or the next day in Unicorn Riot News. We'll also hear from our friend Lorraine Krameyer, who's excited about the Munson Sidewalk Art Show, and Lily Christopher has found some surprisingly trendy offerings at the New Hartford Farmers Market. I also have a report on the peace rally that was held yesterday by Snug on the corner of James and Howard Street. But first, the one big beautiful bill, which includes tax cuts and spending provisions, was passed by Republicans in Congress and signed into law by President Trump on Thursday. To provide our listeners with an informed perspective, I spoke to a doctor, a nurse practitioner, a maternity ward employee, and a Medicaid recipient about how this bill is likely to impact healthcare right here in the Mohawk Valley. Here's that report. I'm Ron Klopfenstein in Utica, where people have gathered to protest what Trump calls the big beautiful bill. It was passed earlier today by Republicans in the House of Representatives. Lena, who works in maternity, and so you have obviously some concerns about these cuts to Medicaid, I imagine?
I do, because one of the first programs to be cut from hospitals in rural areas like here is maternity. So anything that's extra or they believe that doesn't need funding, and we're already a very underfunded program, it's one of the first things to go. And if we don't have anyone to deliver babies, it's going to be a really hard struggle for our moms and anyone who wants to have children.
So where would the hospitals locally, like, where would they lose these services? Would local hospitals?
Local hospitals would. Rome would eventually lose it. They would probably be one of the first. Probably one of the first to be affected would be Rome Hospital. Wynn might follow after. They
so
really
when people
haven't
talk about rural hospitals, they not only could mean they not only mean local hospitals, but like Rome Hospital, like right here.
Yeah, it would be. It would be very local
area. So
it's a very small hospital, and we rely mostly on funding from the community. And if we lose that, we lose maternity.
So
we might also lose elective surgeries.
What would that be like for people that live around here?
It would affect people in a devastating way, because we deliver between 600 and 700 babies a year, and that's how many people would be immediately affected, especially people that come back to have children in succession. Most of our moms aren't first-time moms, they're on 4 or 5.
So
and it's a very poor area, so they rely on it because they also have access to Medicaid programs and have MVP insurance. They don't always have private.
Where would they go?
There's not an outlet for it. There's not a better outlet. They would have to commute very far. Most of them don't have the resources to do that, and sometimes we have very low literacy levels, and they need rides to the hospital even from local areas as close as Minnesota.
So women locally, if they go to Rome Hospital now for maternity, may not be able to get maternity services at all. They won't be able to access it.
They might not, and I don't know that Wynn would keep them if Rome lost them. And the closest would be Crouse, because they have the most funding and they actually do have a NICU. Rome can't even help babies that are born prematurely.
So then if someone is on Medicaid, likely they have transportation issues too, so then Syracuse would be quite a burden.
There's very limited access to Medicaid transportation, especially if people are young and have access to their families. You have to petition it and you have to ask Medicaid and Medicare for that access, and they restrict it without a very good reason. And just not having a car is not a good enough reason.
What is the potential danger of women going back to having to have their children like at home or on their own without health care?
We have a lot of high-risk pregnancies in the area. We have, first of all, a high incidence of obesity and diabetes, and that creates incredible complications for our moms. Without access to really good, healthy food, parents are choosing the cheapest thing they can, which is not necessarily healthy, which contributes to obesity. And that is one of the biggest factors we have with moms in high-risk situations that rely on these hospitals for care and for transfer.
So someone who's not getting their maternity services health care, they're also not going to get their health care for all their other
No, especially not if they have chronic illness.
In Oneida, Herkimer, and Madison counties, 105,000 people rely on Medicaid. There's nearly 1 in 4 residents. That means that cuts to Medicaid not only threaten to strip a quarter of Mohawk Valley residents of their access to health care, it means that our hospitals and health clinics are about to lose a significant portion of their funding. I'm with Ed and Candace. Ed is a doctor, Candace is a nurse practitioner and a nurse midwife. I'm wondering, how do you think local people will be affected by the cuts to Medicaid?
Well, our big concern is the community health centers, and there's a community health center in Utica,
Upstate Family Health Center.
How will that be affected, do you think?
Well, anybody who loses their Medicaid would still need to have health care. So they would show up at their primary care person at the health center, and there'd be no payment. They'd have to pay themselves, which would be a much reduced amount. And so the local community health center could lose a significant amount of their revenue. And in some rural areas, that is so much that they could have to close. Now, I'm not sure what the financial situation is here in Utica, but depending on how fine a margin they have, even a small amount of decrease could be devastating to them.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people in this community who have Medicaid, and if they lose that, then, as Ed just said, then they either have to pay themselves or they put off getting health care. And my concern about that is that when people don't get regular primary care services, it becomes more expensive because they wait. They wait until things are really bad, and then they show up in the emergency room and they need much higher level care, which is more expensive. Right?
And what would be the cumulative impact on the industry if everybody waits until things are in an emergency state and such a large segment of the population is getting their primary health care from ERs?
Yeah.
What impact will they have on?
Well, what happens is, let's say, for example, you have hypertension, high blood pressure, or diabetes, and you stop taking your medicine. You're not under control. Then you end up having a stroke, you end up having a heart attack, you end up having amputations, much higher cost and much more devastating for that individual. They can no longer work, they're not productive for their family, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a huge ripple effect.
But do you have personal concerns about the cuts to Medicaid too?
I do. I have chronic illness. I have systemic lupus. I've had it all my life. I struggle with energy levels, with fatigue, and with rash. And getting to work is a challenge for me, and getting the right kinds of medication is a challenge because there are not alternatives to biologics for someone like me who's trialed on other medications and failed. So if I don't get Benlysta, I could go into liver failure and die because my medication controls my liver failure.
I think there are probably a lot of people going to hear this and be surprised as somebody who has a job is on Medicaid.
Yeah, I don't make a living wage. So I'm not afraid to say that on camera, that I work at Rome Health and don't get a living wage.
And a lot of people who work full time or work multiple jobs don't make a living wage. You can't afford health care.
No, and most of the people in my hospital have to look for alternative services or apply for intermediary programs like I do, where you're in a category where it's not totally free and there's a partial payment plan. But for my medications, I can't afford the partial. I can't even afford the infusions if I do a partial. So I'm on the fully funded program because of my illness.
What do you think your life would be like without Medicaid and without the health care that you're getting now?
So when I moved to New York, I didn't have any health insurance and I was almost completely disabled. I couldn't get out of bed. And when I started getting on the medication, I started having control of symptoms for my autoimmune disorder. And then I was able to get up and get a job. And I am educated, I have 2 degrees, but it's not helping.
So because you're on Medicaid and you get the health care, you're able to work.
Yes.
Let go because I was told by my doctor, no more, don't teach ceramic art anymore, you're killing yourself. So I got $380 a month. My rent was $325. I had to go for work at the county in Bath, New York. I was in Steuben. There's a room full of people. They had one job, a part-time at Bill Evans or whatever, that food restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
How can you pay for gas to go 20 miles to work part-time and still have money for your rent working part-time? It's this working that they're gonna replace to get your Medicaid, to get your benefits. These people, no, the doctors tell them don't work. You are not able to work full-time job or part-time. So you're not taking advantage. There's
Yeah.
no taking advantage. There might be 1/1,000,000%. But they check us every
So,
month.
and let's just back up a little bit. We're one of the few countries in the world that doesn't have universal health care,
Right.
right? So we're already at a huge deficit in this country. We're way behind in primary care and specialty care. So we're taking a bad system and making it worse.
Going backwards.
We're going backwards. We're going
The people here at the rally all noted that this will have a devastating impact on healthcare, whether you're a Medicaid recipient or not. In Utica, I'm Ron Klopfenstein for 95.5 FM, The Heat. Opponents of the bill say that the Republican plan to divert $350 billion from healthcare and social programs in order to expand ICE and build more detention centers will have a devastating impact on the quality and types of healthcare that will be available to us here in the Mohawk Valley. Brendan Maslowskis-Dunn is a professor of history who teaches in Cambodia and is a freelance investigative journalist. His work as a journalist has brought him to Palestine over the past 2 years, where he spent most of his time in a refugee camp in Bethlehem. Last month, he went to Egypt to accompany the global march to Gaza, an action that involved thousands of actors from all over the world who attempted to break the siege of Gaza. His work was published in the Unicorn Riot News, and he has more stories on Palestine and Egypt coming up over the summertime. Brendan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
So what have you been doing over in Egypt, and what's going on in the Middle East?
Oh, so much. So I went to Egypt last month in June, and as you mentioned, there's this planned action that brought, by my count, about 6,000 people from all over the world, activists, humanitarians, just different people that wanted to do something, anything to break the siege in Gaza, to demand an end to the genocide, to demand the immediate mass transfer of food, medical aid, and other humanitarian aid into Gaza, just to put an end to this. I mean, this has been going on for, this genocide has been going on for a year and almost 10 months. Almost.
How did it start? So what is going on in Gaza?
We really have to bring
You
it
were on
back.
the show a year ago talking about it, and
Yeah.
in that time things have intensified.
Sure. I mean,
certainly.
I'll say, how it started, it's really difficult to cover that. I would bring it back. I know people talk about October 7th and the attacks from Hamas in southern Israel. You really can't start with that. You have to go back 75 years. And I will say briefly what's been going on for the last 75 years is an apartheid system that's, legalized, system of discrimination and segregation of people, and putting the indigenous people to that area into open air prisons, into
Kind of like a ghetto, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's precisely what Gaza is. It's the world's largest ghetto. I see what's going on now in Gaza is very similar to what tragically happened to Jews that were living in ghettos in Central Europe leading up to World War II. So I think there's a lot of very tragic and unfortunate parallels there. And basically, most of the people that are getting killed are civilians. The vast overwhelming majority of people, they're killing fields essentially that are being set up. Even with this sham of a food distribution program that an American company is involved in Rafah in the southern part of Gaza, is absolute nightmare, is madness. And by some estimates, just last month, there are over 500 Palestinian civilians that were killed by American mercenaries. There are American soldiers, not with the army, but American mercenaries that are in Gaza right now who are participants in this genocide.
So what are the challenges of covering that? You're an American, and you went to Gaza as a journalist. when you're on the ground, how do you get your bearings and how do you know what to do?
Well, I couldn't. That's the thing. I tried to get to Gaza, and I couldn't. Right, and it's too dangerous for me there. There's more than enough journalists there right now, and Palestinian journalists that are documenting this crisis.
So you
that
were
are
in
documenting.
Egypt?
Yeah, I went to Egypt, and the plan was.
What is that like? I mean, just to be, to cover a story in a different country, especially where it's like a global hotspot.
Right. I mean, I'm not going in any official capacity. I'm not going in as perhaps some other journalists working for mainstream publications. They inform the Egyptian state and going through immigration that they're there for work. They're there working as a journalist. I don't do that when I go to Egypt or even where I live in Cambodia or when I went to Palestine and Israel. The stakes are too high.
You
That
just
puts a
go
target
in-
on my back, right?
Right.
And we see that with
Register.
how many journalists and media workers have been killed, and a number of them, I would say, assassinated, intentionally targeted by the Israeli army.
Well, I think a lot of us American journalists too are starting to feel like we have targets on our back as well. So
Absolutely.
we'll talk more about this after the break. We're going to talk more with Brendan Maslowskis-Dunn. We're also going to talk to artist Lorraine Kramer. She'll join us by phone to talk about the Months in Sidewalk Art Show. Lily Christopher has a story on the farmers market, and I'll have the report on the Snug Peace Rally that was held in Utica yesterday. We'll have the show available on YouTube and podcast on Wednesday at uticaphoenix.net/Media Monday. I'm Ron Klopfenstein. You're in the hot seat on Media Monday. We'll have more after the break.
At First Source, we believe in building a better community together.
So in the
When you
second
become a
segment,
member, you're not
I'm
just
gonna
joining
do
your
a
credit
segment,
union, you're becoming a
phone
member
call,
for
then
good.
we'll go to
Through
commercial,
local
then third
partnerships,
segment will be a
outreach,
segment, and
sponsorships,
all
and
of us
education,
talk the rest
we're
of the
creating opportunities
Sounds
that
good. Now
uplift,
to the interview
inspire,
in the
and
third
strengthen.
segment.
Does that
Yes.
phone go on the air or do you need my cell?
I think it goes on me. It goes on me.
Making the world safe. Together,
What company
we
are you a
make a difference.
journalist with?
Together,
Well, so I'm
we
freelance,
are
but I, very part-time, but I mostly write for a news organization.
Jimmy, I wanted to
It's
this year,
called,
this year's about your
Unicorn
workout
Design.
goals and
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
it's written down.
join.
in
My goodness,
I
I
agree with that.
Hey, Lorraine.
Yeah.
45
Hey, Tom, I'm just gonna put you on hold.
So some of my
You're
work
gonna be on
is
hold
already
for about,
from
probably about 10 minutes.
It takes
40
group
But you'll hear me and just stay on hold and be ready to talk. First thing I'm gonna ask you is, I'm gonna ask you,
You can use
so what piece did you create?
Bring a guest. Get $50 off in-store supplements. The fitness mall is over 100
All right,
brand of
hold on
new
tight.
equipment. They're open 24/7, 365 days a year.
My Fitness
The
Mill
Fitness
commercial is
Mill
airing right now. Hey, the Fitness
Best
Mill.
staff, best
My
experience.
commercial, I
Live it.
love this. I actually go to Fitness Mill. I endorse it 100%. 12 hours a week.
If you see my mom there, she
Yeah?
goes there a little bit, yeah.
I like the Fitness Mill. They're my first client, as an advertising advisor. So I'm like super pumped.
Did you go in the old mill and they're still there?
I did. I've been going to Fitness Mill since it was actually the Fitness Mill back in
Actual
New York
mill,
Mills. Yeah, I followed over to Broad Street and they got a nice new facility and I'm making their commercials and it's going good. So when we come back, I'm going to do a little preview of this part.
Are you covered by Medicaid,
Sorry.
Child Health Plus, or the
Come back,
Essential Plan,
and I'll talk
or
to
receive
Lorraine,
Medicaid
then we'll
due
do
to being
commercials.
aged, blind, or disabled? We have an important reminder for you. The auto enrollment for coverage ended last year, so you now need to renew every year.
You got it.
Be on the lookout for the New York State of Health notification to
Speaking
ensure
fluent
your health
Lithuanian.
coverage continues without
Oh, is that what it is?
interruption. You
And
must
Irish, yeah.
recertify your
Just
plan.
last.
Don't worry, you're not alone in this. The Neighborhood Center is here to offer you free recertification assistance.
So I just
Our
want to hear
experts are
my
standing
fit,
by,
my
ready to
fit
guide you through
commercial.
recertification
I know,
and help you secure the
Oh,
coverage you rely on.
I worked so
Avoid
hard.
the stress of last-minute rushing.
I
or the
rehearsed
risk
it
of
for
losing your
2
benefits.
days.
Act
It was like a
today.
script like
Stay
shit.
covered.
Then I worked on it for 2 days. 2 days.
Visit us
Drove him
online
nuts.
at
Drove Cassandra.
CTR.org.
That Fitness Mill commercial, I had to be perfect. I drove myself nuts. I think we're coming back.
Go downtown and you're searching around for something to
Oh, that's good.
What it means is pizza should be there to reach
like this one?
100
I like this one, yeah. This is your beatboxing, right?
Monday through Saturday,
Great.
7 a.m. to 10
Yeah.
p.m. Sunday, 12 a.m. to 8 p.m.
I know there's
So you'll
one
find
We have good
advertisements,
commercials here.
There
So
was
we go
one
home.
kind of out of the way
It's like the
chicken
station. Oh,
tenders,
yeah.
calamari, hamburgers, hot and cold subs, and specialty sandwiches.
Do we have anybody on Facebook Live?
It has pasta,
We have 3, we have 1 now.
Oh,
And it's on during the commercials too.
Great. Well, no, that's good. When you do
That's
events,
being recorded straight through.
a lot of people probably watch it after it's done because it like saves it and puts it on. The thing I did yesterday is the rally. You got a lot of like thousands. What are those clips at 21,000 of the snowboard? I just did Facebook Live and like say their thing.
Unicorn Ride shared your post, and they got like 2,000 views within less than an hour.
New York, listen up. Currently, 6.7 million of us have affordable health insurance through New York State of Health. However, new federal policies could put up to 1.5 million New Yorkers at risk of losing that coverage. That's too many families, workers, and small business owners left in the dark. We don't know exactly what's coming, but your story matters. Stay connected. We'll keep you informed with real facts at nystateofhealth.ny.gov. Because 1.5 million without coverage is 1.5 million too many. Paid for by New York State of Health.
Hey, man on the street, aren't you Woodstock Rob?
Excuse me?
Aren't you Woodstock Rob?
Yep. Some people call me that, yes.
What radio station do you listen to?
95.5.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
95.5, Phoenix Radio.
What? I can't hear you.
95.5, Phoenix Radio.
Great.
This is Ron Klopfenstein, and you're in the hot seat on Media Monday. Hey everyone, welcome back to the hot seat on this Media Monday. Today we're talking to journalist Brandon Wislowski-Dunn. Artist Lorraine Krameyer joins us by phone in a moment. But first we're going to go to the corner of James and Howard Street where Snug held a peace rally yesterday in response to this weekend's shooting. Photojournalist Jim Hill and I were on the scene. Here's our report. I'm Ron Klopfenstein in Utica, where Snug is holding a rally in response to this weekend's shooting.
Please come out and support us, please. This is your community too. I'm the right now the block. I have a 10-year-old. I'm out here because she matters. Your children should matter too. Each and every one of your children should matter.
I'm with Angel Martinez. He's the program manager for the Snug program. What's happening here today?
Well, today we're doing a shooting response. Anytime there's a shooting in the community, we'll come out, do a shooting response. People will call it a rally, where we get the community involved, everybody come out and just stand together. As you know, there's no community without unity. Our goal is to try to fight against this gun violence together.
What does SNUG stand for?
SNUG stands for should not use guns.
Should not
so
use
it's
guns.
guns spelled backwards.
I'm with Janelle Williams. This event is in honor of your brother. What happened to your brother, Reese?
He got shot 4th of July. And then naked. Yep, just out here to watch the fireworks, and somebody was out here doing something stupid, and he ended up getting killed.
What was your brother like? Can you tell us about Reese?
Full of life. My brother always been life of the party. Good person. He worked all his life. Worked a hard working man. He sold dinners, and like I said, he was well known, well loved by a lot of people.
What do you want to say to the community about violence and gun violence and the reason that you're having this rally? What's the message you want to get out there?
They don't understand when they do stuff like this, what they damage family and what we have to go through. It's like real, it's a lot. We used to people dying from natural causes, but when you take someone's life, it's totally different. It's a lot, it's stressful. It's a lot, But I'm gonna miss my brother, he really was a good person, like I said. What are you gonna say, Mom?
Is there anything you'd like to, let me give you a mic, Carol.
Say it,
yeah.
Say it. Say it right there.
He was really nice, and I really liked him.
Thank you for saying that and sharing that. I'm really sorry for your loss. Do you want to say something about your uncle?
He was a nice uncle to me, and when I found out he was dead, I was crying.
Yeah, my name is Letitia Brown, and that was my cousin. Loved dearly. If y'all know something, and know who did it, who had something to do with it, please come forward. Y'all took a good person from us. We're gonna never live this down. Like, he was everything to everybody. The kids loved him, he loved the kids. We just need to know who did this. We don't care why you did it. We just know you ain't gonna be able to sleep peaceful. We don't sleep peaceful. We've been up for days. We need to know what happened. We wanna know why you wanna do what you're doing. Just get your life together. We able to forgive. We'll never forget, but we able to forgive. All we wanna know is, why did you take the wrong man? Any man is worthless. Now your life is gonna be gone too, but ours is pain. Yours is not. So if anybody know what happened to my cousin, please just talk about it. No one's mad at you. We just want to know. We need to close your mouth.
The organizers and participants of today's rally gathered together to mourn, to raise awareness, but also to encourage the public to step forward if they know anything about what happened. In Utica, I'm Ron Klopfenstein for 95.5 FM, The Heat. 95.5 FM, The Heat is part of your community, and in fulfilling our purpose as community radio, we want to give people in our neighborhood a voice. So we want to keep this conversation going on. Lorraine Krameyer joins us on the phone now. She'll be in the Munson Sidewalk Art Show. Lorraine, are you there?
I'm there.
Hi, Lorraine. Let's see, I want you to speak up a little bit. Let's try one more time. Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. So you've been working on some really special project that's kind of big. It was almost so big you were afraid it wasn't going to fit into the show, right?
Yeah.
So what's your work of art?
Okay, this piece is, I think we need this more now, Ron, than at any other time in my life of making any piece of artwork, because it brought me so much joy. The couple people that I gave them, he let them peek at it while I was working on it, gasped with joy.
Awesome.
They totally said the idea that fairy tale realm is a relevant thing, so said C.S. Lewis, Narnia author, and I have questioned it for years. I've been in the show, I looked it up 17 times, Ron, and I won 3 times, and those particular wins were in the fairy genre.
Wow.
And I always kind of poo-pooed it, but now I understand. This is what people want. They want fairy tales. We want to look and find some joy in the stories that life is presenting, I guess. And this piece brought me so much. 3 times it brought me to tears with so much joy. I mean, my work is my healing medicine.
So what is it like?
It's a 3-story tree stump.
Wow.
There's a lean-to, moss lean-to on the top. You gotta see it. I can't explain it. The miniature.
So did you make this out of an actual tree stump?
Am I talking over you? I can't.
No, you go right ahead. No, you tell us about how you took this tree stump and made it into this fairy house.
It's crazy. It's been a process over a couple of years, actually.
Wow.
And then finishing it with everything's in scale now. The downstairs living room, or kitchen. There's a downstairs kitchen, dining room. Then the upstairs is the bedroom. And these are things that I've acquired through. I'm very eclectic in my work. There's things that I'm like, why am I picking this nutshell up? Where's this piece of fur from? Somebody looked at it and said, what is this? I said, oh, it's a piece of mink coat from my aunt. And said, it won't fit you.
So glamorous.
It's very eclectic, and you look at it, and if you don't believe in fairies,
you will after that, right?
Push you over the edge and make you believe in fairy and fantasy and joy. If we ever needed it, it's now, Ron.
And Lorraine, why is stuff like that so important now? I mean, you were on the phone and you heard the story that I just had about the shooting, and the feature story before this about the people losing their health care. Like, why is it so important that we celebrate art and joy at this point in our history?
For me, I was really sick while I was completing this piece, and I'll tell you, it shifted me. It got me out of my suffering. It healed me. It healed my mind, because it's in our mind where our fear, for me anyway, it's fear or love. Those are my 2 choices. What am I going to focus on? And it's minute by minute, because the fear will come up. And if I lean into what brings me joy, for me, it's creating, and this whole show, I mean, this is a show that is bringing our community together. It brings families out to support their kids, their families that are participating. It's scary to make a pizza, right? You want to be scared. Create something, finish it, and then subject it to the juror. I know it sounds trite when we're dealing with these huge issues, but fear is fear to me. And then when you confront any fear that you have, it can set you free when you step out. And I give credit to all the people that submit. There's professionals that put pieces into the show, as well as people of all ages. And it's going to be inside. It's not the sidewalk art show anymore.
Nice.
They're calling it the Munson Art Festival because
I see.
they've elevated us
Art
to the
festival.
floor in the roof court.
Yeah.
And so we'll be in the museum where there's air conditioning. They'll be subjected to the heat, and they've always get to cover and uncover the work. And this year and last year, this last year was, I think, the first time we were inside, and everybody, I mean, it just was unanimous that this is where it belongs now after many years of being outdoors.
Yeah.
So,
I'm looking at a photo now of your work, and just to see the detail and stuff. You know, it's a really amazing. It's kind of defies description. So I just think we should say to people, come and see the art festival and see your work. And I'm sure we'll put a picture of this on our website. And thank you for articulating why art is important more than ever. I think that's what a message that we all need to hear. So for that,
so grateful for the opportunity, and I love your show, and I loved last week. It inspired me to keep going. She was wonderful. It's an inspiration, Ron. I'm so grateful. Thank you, and I hope to see you there.
Well, you're an inspiration too, and we will definitely see you there. So we're talking today to journalist Brendan Maslowskis Dunn. We just spoke to artist Lorraine Premar. We're going to have more Brendan when we come back. Also, Lily Christopher found some really cool things that you can buy and try at the New Hartford Farmers Market. We're going to have her story when we come back. I'm Ron Klopfenstein. You're on the hot seat on the Media Monday. We'll have more after the break.
Our community is full of vision.
This will be good. We have about 20 minutes.
Entrepreneurs.
So, this is Ron Klopfenstein, and you're in the hot seat on the Media Monday. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Next week on the Hot Seat Media Monday, we're going to celebrate 100 years of WIBX radio with two journalists who are part of the news staff. One is our very own John Steeman, and also he was a reporter for this station, and also a longtime WIBX newsman, John Swan, 8 years. We're talking about 100 years. I really love to do shows where we celebrate the media, the local media. 100 years, wow. For information about those upcoming shows of Hot Seat Media Monday, as well as show notes, videos, and podcasts of all our past episodes, just go to uticaphoenix.net/Media Monday. Today we're talking to journalist Brandon Maslowskis Dunn. He's going to join us in a moment. But first, there's some really cool things that you can try when you go to the Farmers Market in New Hartford. Lily Christopher has this report.
I'm Lily Christopher. I'm the Village Green of New Hartford, and I'm at the Farmers Market. And I'm here with Amanda Mitchell. So Amanda, tell me about, what is going on today?
Today and every Wednesday we have the New Hartford Farmers Market. It's in the New Hartford Village Green. It goes from 2:30 to 6:30 every Wednesday through the end of August.
That's great. And what exactly do you do? I know you kind of brought the market back.
Yeah.
Revived it. So tell us a little bit about that. It's like you and your family.
Sure, yeah. So my dad was running it, and we simultaneously run it together. We had the shift over to the Village Green a few years ago, and it's been absolutely wonderful. It's really been a hub for the community in terms of getting local vendors together, having local music available, having the local food trucks around, and the location of the village just makes it so easily accessible to everyone in New Hartford.
Passion, what do you like about Farmers Market?
I love the people I've met here and the customers, and they ask me a lot of questions about beekeeping and about the honey. Is it pure honey as opposed to, is there any chemicals in it? All that kind of stuff. They have a lot of questions about bees. How do we take care of our bees? And, I just love answering all the questions.
That's great.
The biggest thing is the metal spoon. They've heard on the internet. And you use a metal spoon. Yes, of course you can.
Just a quick mix soda with Amanda, and we're about to hop on the TikTok challenge of the cool soda mixes.
Yeah, so we're with Quick Mix Soda Company. I'm Amanda. This is Tammy. Tammy's our mixologist. We have a variety of things that you could do. You could try out a pre-tested recipe that we have right here and on our sign right there. We also have create your own, so you can get a different type of soda base like Sprite or Coke, Dr. Pepper, ginger ale, and then add a flavor that you like. So if you like strawberry, you can add strawberry flavoring. You can add vanilla flavoring. We have all kinds. We also have Pop Rocks and candies that you can add to the soda and cream.
I know obviously a lot of Gen Z, TikTok takes them first spin with this, but I don't think a lot of people realize in this area they could get it local. They assume like big cities, big places. Do you guys just come to the market, or do you run a business or a place outside of this market?
So right now, we're doing farmers markets. So we do this one, New Hartford, and we do Whitesboro on Monday nights. But we are on Instagram, we're on TikTok, and we could be available for pop-up events.
So I'm here with Olivia. Olivia, tell us what food you got.
We were just over at the Break from the Grind food truck. I got the Patty O'Hogan sandwich. So we've got a patty melt, caramelized onions, bacon, burger, all very farm to table, all very local, very fresh and delicious.
Hi, so I'm here with Angelica, and we're back. Can you tell us, how do you make your permanent bracelets?
Okay, so the chains are different mixed metals. I have sterling silver, rose gold filled or yellow gold filled. It just kind of goes based on the person's size. So it goes, I measure them beforehand, kind of size it to their wrist. I take a jump ring, and then this is a welder. It's a stylus pen style, and all you have to do is connect the electric to it and do a little zap.
Here on the Village Green New Hartford Farmers Market, you'll find community, culture, and connection with your local stands and your friendly customers passing through every day. I'm Lily Christopher from 95.5 Utica Phoenix, and I recommend for you all to be here next Wednesday.
Lily Christopher joins us in the studio now. Lily, you're a senior at Lemoyne, a journalism student, so you have some questions for Brendan.
Oh yes, a lot of questions. Hi Brendan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. So you come from living in an area like Utica, covering news in Egypt, which must be like a light year of a different world. Tell us a little bit about that. What was the most interesting thing that you covered in your time there?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's very different there, and I think all of us, it's safe to say we learn about Egypt. We learn about that ancient history, the pyramids, the Nile River, the Sphinx. So it was incredible for the first time to be, among the pharaohs and the pyramids in this ancient history. But of course, fast forward to today, Egypt's a very different place, and I think one thing that was very difficult for me to grapple with is that. No, it is a brutal, repressive police state and military dictatorship, all right? So, and you feel it. It is overwhelming. It is suffocating. The presence of the police, of the army is absolutely everywhere. There's undercover, police officers and informants. People are afraid really to speak up about things publicly or even sometimes in private. This is a close ally of the United States and has been for many, many decades. It's also, Egypt is a close ally of Israel, and I think therein lies, the major issue I encountered there. I went there to accompany about 6,000 activists and people from around the world who went and met in Cairo in early to mid-June with plans to march to the border with Gaza and demand an end to the genocide. Unfortunately, that protest, which was, you know, the true spirit of nonviolent protests and long history of that all over the world, was violently and brutally, I would say, cut short. So I was there to witness that and there to write about that.
What did you witness?
So basically the plan was to, you know, people were meeting in Cairo, and the plan was to drive to a location on the Sinai Peninsula, which borders Gaza and also Israel, is a very heavily militarized part of Egypt also. But to go through the different checkpoints and make it closer to the border and to meet there and then march for a few days across the desert, camp out in the desert, and just have a demonstration on the border with Gaza to demand an end to the genocide, you know, an end to the occupation of Palestine, an end to the war, and the immediate mass transfer of food and medicine and other humanitarian aid into this besieged, starving, suffocating, you know, population. That's just, every day I was there, you know, 100 Palestinians were killed this day and then 70 the next day. It was just brutal to be so close yet so far away. And so what happened, before people even marched, the authorities started raiding hotels. So they would go in maybe 2, 3 in the morning, and maybe there's a hotel, they found out a number of activists from France were there. And they went in there, they raided it, they grabbed a bunch of people, and they brought them in for questioning. Some of them they deported. There are several hundred people that were deported, some right upon entering in the airport, and others, you know, when they're picked up off the streets or they're raided in the hotel. So the day of the action, when people were going to meet and coalesce and then march, you know, across the Sinai desert and peninsula, a number of people were stopped at one big checkpoint in particular. I made it to that checkpoint. And so there are upwards to almost 1,000 people from all over the world who were stopped there. The authorities confiscated passports of hundreds of different people.
What do the authorities say when they stop you at a checkpoint?
Well, I wasn't, you know, I didn't go through the checkpoint because it was already, it was already blocked. All right, they weren't letting anyone through, locals and foreigners alike. But yeah, for the other,
what's it like for somebody who's who encounters the authorities in a situation like that? What is it like? Like, how do they treat you?
I mean, it was aggressive, it was intimidating, and by the end of the night, it was extremely violent. You know, and I've encountered violence at different protests, you know, by the authorities in the U.S., in Cambodia, in different parts of the world. This is near the top of the list. So basically, what happened?
The top list in terms of like
violence. Yeah, the violence. And it wasn't just violence from the police. There, I'll mention in a moment what happened, but basically, what happened? They confiscated passports to hundreds of people, and so there are nearly 1,000 people that just staged a sit-in. All right, and said, we're not moving, we want to get to Gaza. More and more police arrived, riot police arrived, encircled everyone. The police gave a warning for people to disperse and said, you're not going forward. We have buses and vans to bring you back to Cairo, but that's the only direction you're going. Some people willingly went, most people stayed and said, no, we want, there's a genocide going on, we have to do something to stop it, we're staying put.
And were the people that said that, were they mostly people that were, they probably weren't Egyptian nationals, I would think, right?
No, there were, yeah.
Because people that were Egyptian, like if they were to defy the authorities, they would be in real trouble, I would imagine.
Yeah, there were some Egyptians.
Not that there wasn't danger for someone like a journalist.
You're right, there's profoundly more danger for Egyptians there. And so, you know, if there are Egyptians there, and it was largely internationals there, right? Because if an Egyptian got caught,
it's like it was really like brave for anybody to like defy the authorities.
For sure. If Egyptians got caught, they would go to prison, and likely for a very long time, and they would likely get tortured in prison, because that's what happens. So what happened next is people are doing the sit-in, they're chanting and waving Palestinian flags, and then all these men of different ages and teenage boys and young boys showed up. They're wearing like more traditional clothes, like Bedouin clothes, like from the desert. And I saw them, I was on the outside of the crowd, and I saw these people approach, and I was thinking, oh, why are they here? Are they here to support or spectate? And then they started to put masks around their faces. And then I realized, okay, they're here to do something really bad. They started throwing water bottles at the demonstrators, and then the police opened up and let these people go in and viciously beat. And they, I saw this happen. I witnessed it. They had cattle prods, they had clubs, they had whips, and they had pepper spray, and they started to viciously, brutally beat people. The dictatorship in Egypt has a history of doing this. They are paid, hired thugs. And basically they go into an area and they might just go into a village and find a bunch of poor people and say, hey, we'll give you a little bit of money, go in and beat up these people. Go up and kill these people. And so that's basically what happened to the people gathered there. I was actually grabbed by the police. I was detained. They saw me, they knew I was a journalist. They saw me taking pictures and filming a woman that was being brutalized by the police. So they grabbed me. They dragged me into a van and crammed a lot of people in there.
Did they
were going
take
to
your
suffocate.
phone away or anything? Or did they take your phone away?
Eventually they did. They brought me into a truck, a police truck. And so I was in there with a dozen other people, different activists. They confiscated our passports and our phones. And we were in there for a few hours. Every once in a while, they'd open the door, they'd be beating some other activist and throw him inside with us. The whole time I was there, I said, I'm a journalist. I have luggage out there. I need to get it. Please let me out, or get my items for me. They said no. They eventually let us all go, and their goal was to get people back to Cairo. So I was one of the last people there that night, and I got my luggage, but it was missing my laptop, my camera lens, and my pens and pencils. So this is something the police had.
Yeah.
They gave back to me. I can't say for sure, but my suspicions
Kept
are
that,
telling me that the
everything
police
you
took
went
it.
into
Right.
Why do it? Why practice journalism when you're putting yourself at risk? Why is it important that people do this kind of work?
The story needs to get out, right? And especially in a crisis, in something as tragic as this ongoing genocide, and especially as an American, right? The U.S. government under Trump, of course, and started under Biden, not only is backing this genocide, but is facilitating it. I mean, the U.S. has the power to, today they could say stop, and they could, do a number of different actions, stop sending weapons, and that would be the end of the genocide, right? And the U.S. government is doing the exact opposite of that. I feel obligated, especially as an American, to go there and to cover what's going on, do what I can to, give voice to the voiceless, right? And to try and elevate those stories of people's movements, of protests, and of just common people. So I felt obligated.
I mean, and you have a lot of experience in covering these people's movements, democratic movements, dictatorships, and regimes. What do you think of the way that this country has changed from the time I interviewed you 1 year ago to now?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some scary parallels with what I witnessed in Egypt and, with this bill that was just passed. I mean, giving so much of a war chest of funds to ICE, the Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency. I mean, this would, in effect, make this one of the largest standing armies in the world, and we see, and the ICE terror has been going on for a number of years, right? It's not new or unique under Republican leadership.
A couple who was terrorized right here in Utica by
You
ICE.
covered this,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so, but now all bets are off, right? And they're going to schools and they're masking up. It's increasingly militarized. It's increasingly volatile situation. So I see what
people are out the streets.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
In our communities everywhere, I see what ICE is doing in this country, and it is very similar to what the Egyptian authorities are doing to their people. It's similar, I don't want to say the exact same thing, but what the Israeli authorities are doing to Palestinians.
What about in terms of the way that the Trump administration and the MAGA movement, their regard for journalism and for the profession, like, do you see some parallels in terms of how other world leaders feel about journalists who tell the truth about their own countries, the way that Trump is kind of cracking down on?
Yeah, I mean, it is an utter visceral disdain of journalism, right? They fear any authoritarian leader or government is terrified of journalists because
I think that for some people, those of us who live here, a lot of us, especially those of us who practice journalism, and I said before this year, for me being a journalist who's gay and a teacher, I have triple target on my back from these people after me. But I think that for a lot of people that live here, it's kind of like the frog in boiling water kind of thing, where it's getting worse, but it's getting worse faster now. But it's still getting worse gradually enough that I wonder, like, if you have a different perspective as someone who, you were here in July, I interviewed you in July of 2024. You were over in Egypt, you've been out of the country, you've been following what's happened here, but you're back here now. I feel as if you described Egypt as like the repressive feeling of a police state. I sort of feel like some of that here. Do you see any parallels?
I see some parallels. It is not as bad here as it is in Egypt, of course.
Perhaps it
or in
feels worse
Israel
because
now.
I'm not used to Egypt, or
Right, but there's a lot of alarming and very scary things.
What should
changes
journalists
going on.
do? American journalists who practice journalism in America. What should we be doing or thinking about? What lessons have you learned practicing journalism under such dire and oppressive circumstances?
Be bold. I mean, I see with like this program and really giving voice to the voiceless and those real, sincere, independent, intrepid journalists across the U.S. They're doing great work, but unfortunately, the mainstream establishment and corporate media, you see with these lawsuits, right? They're just
CBS
caving,
caved.
right? They're caving instantly.
The network of Edward R. Murrow caved. I mean, that's a very distressing sign, I think, for America, for those of us in business.
Yeah. And I will say, just want to circle back to what happened in Egypt. And my story will be published on Unicorn Riot in the next day or so. I'll have a few more pieces this summer. Thank you. And but although the action was repressed by the Egyptian government, people did not fulfill their goal of getting to the border of Gaza or breaking the siege. There were, actually, while I was in Egypt, there was an announcement by activists in Malaysia to send a 1,000 ship flotilla across the Mediterranean of just humanitarians, activists, people from all over the world who want to join. So the call is going out all over the world to go in October, I believe, if the genocide is still going on, to break the siege of Gaza.
Why would Egypt not want you to help Gaza? Or want activists to help Gaza? I mean, I would think on the same side.
One would think, and early on, after after Israel was created, the Egyptian government under Nasser was, supporting the Palestinian cause. It is a little surprising to, I think, a number of people that, one would think that the surrounding Arab states, many of them that have like massive populations of Palestinian refugees, would support Palestinians, but in fact, the opposite is true. By and large, most of these states, Egypt is a very strong ally of Israel, and Saudi Arabia is a pretty strong ally of Israel too. Jordan also, and we see this across the region, that the Arab governments are they're part of the problem too, and then we've seen this in Egypt, right? It's not just solely Israel. The U.S. should take a lot of the blame, but a lot of the Western countries, of course, the U.K., Germany, they're supporting this genocide. But the surrounding governments too, they're doing quite the opposite of what they should do. And that's why we rely on like common people, like in Malaysia, in the U.S., around the world. Like that's how we're going to make change.
I think that's a really good way to end it. We have to we have to go out there. We have to tell the stories, and I think that we also have to, which I tell my audiences too at times, like as consumers of news, if you want to consume quality news, you have to support it by sharing it, liking it, going to our websites, podcasts, and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for sharing your story, Brendan. I also want to thank the people that I interviewed at the Snug Rally, especially those who lost a loved one. Just want you guys to know that our condolences here at the station are with you, and that we do want to tell your story. So our guest today in the hot seat were journalist Brendan Mislowski. It's done. I didn't have my pronunciation key here. And artist Lorraine Krameyer, who called in. If you'd like to hear the show again, or if you want to see the YouTube versions of those pre-recorded segments and our feature stories, we'll have the videos and podcasts of the show online Wednesday at uticaphoenix.net/Media Monday. Our sound engineer is Jonathan Brooks. He's DJ Jay Easy, and he's up next with the Easy Ride Home. Jim Hale records the show for YouTube and podcast. Willie Christopher is our associate producer, and Bill Kahn is our entertainment correspondent. I'm Ron Klopfenstein. I'll be back next week with another Hot Seat Media Monday.